All right. You are live with Transparency and Merit. Prudince.
That is correct.
And I'm looking
Joe. Yeah.
I'm looking at the spelling there.
Did you misspell it?
It's not looking right.
Well, you didn't have any prudence.
Yeah, I'm looking at the spelling there. Should have used
Yes.
Prudence.
You misspelled it. So why don't you edit it now while we're talking?
I could do that, but it looks so much nicer misspelled.
No, it doesn't.
That's your trademark.
Well, it'll be easier to find if it's right. So now it's right.
Yes.
All right. Welcome, one and all. Angela's already here. We are here.
We are here.
And we have a special guest with us tonight.
Yes. I have been someone who makes a lot of people angry, perhaps.
That's right. Lots of anger.
Lots of anger. And when I go to refresh the page, it has not been fixed. So I don't know why.
Yeah, it might take a second on YouTube.
Yeah. Joe, I've been angry for a while. And about a lot of things.
Why have you been angry?
You know what? A lot of this online censorship and the way the left has been acting has made me angry. Those of you who can't hear Pepe come in that well, he has asked, why have I been angry? And
he's coming in fine. And I've been he's been angry, and I'll be honest, I've been anxious. I've had a lot of anxiety the last couple days, so maybe we'll get into both of those. Brian, why are you angry?
You know what? I guess for me, I'm angry a lot at the fanatical anti-racist have really angered me. The fact that for me that they have a lot of power and that they are allowed to censor, and I just feel to a degree that they're really wrong. And part of me wants to, like online, I kind of want to lash out at them, like just give them the what for, but I know that is not necessarily prudent. And it's not the best thing to do as far as working together with other people. Yes.
What are you talking about? What kind of censorship are you talking about? What are they censoring you that makes you?
Well, we have covered a lot of issues dealing with censorship. For me, it's been some of my favorite podcasters have been taken down. We've had 4 or 5 shows taken down. We've witnessed all versions and varieties of censorship. Right now, we're censored in our action in a lot of ways. There's so much censorship going on right now. Brian, where are you at with this? What are you seeing? Because it's everywhere, and it's given me anxiety at some level.
I am hearing, by the way, from
and how are you dealing?
That they cannot hear me, and I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, but she has terrible internet. So move on.
All right,
she's in the woods.
That may be true. She may have terrible internet, but I was just mentioning that. But for me, the manner in which they do that, and it makes me angry, because if a large company can act as unfair, can be like Google and YouTube can be unfair and unjust, the government can also be unfair and unjust. And they are, these big companies do control, the media does influence public policy. And when things are not, you're not able to debate things and the mainstream media takes over, like what we're allowed, the dialogue, and then something that should be open to all of us is restricted. Well, that should definitely should send bells and whistles that
but social media, by
go ahead.
ability to carefully regulate their own environment.
Well, you're right in that but they're not advertised as that. They are advertised as an open forum. They have, and I forget, I think it's a 230 something. I don't know exactly the name of the bill, but it's the Internet Freedom Bill, which says that they are an open forum. And
you can control your own environment. You can block bad voices. You can limit who sees your posts. You can limit what they see themselves. A user can create custom experience that cleans out all the trash. Would it perhaps be a better investment to train users in curating their own feeds?
Well, that would, if they're doing that, that would make them a publisher, not an open forum. And
it's empowering an army of would-be censors, outraged users who would not only demand that they not only see offensive content, but also that no one else see it either.
Yeah. And I can't believe that they're the majority of people, but they are the people that are speaking the loudest, and they're just highly connected. But I don't think they're not in, I don't think they have good arguments. They just have power, and they're motivated by, they motivate through fear. And they it's almost like a religion to them. Like they know what's right for everybody, and they know what is right for people to hear and not to hear.
It's much less justifiable when attempting to censor ideas, though.
They do that a lot, and they do. The fanatical anti-racist always says white supremacy or hate speech, and now they're censoring anything to do with this pandemic. You can't technically. They don't want you saying what the disease, what the disease is or what the virus is. You can't talk about it openly. And it's like, there's a lot of different information out there. And the fact that we can't discuss things openly and honestly, it's not a free society. And then the mainstream media does, covers it even less than they used to. So really, the information age is really much more the censorship age, and it's kind of sad because, in this information age, all ideas should be on the table, but that doesn't seem necessarily to be the case. And that's where my anger is. But in a logical sense, there are plenty of websites I can go to look at information. And people will, there'll always be ignorant people out there who think that they know what is. What's that?
How do you manage your anger?
Poorly. You know what? Honestly,
you have to do it prudence.
You know what? I'll tell you something. I stew about it. And
what pisses you off the most?
At this point, a lot of some of these people on the internet, like online and stuff, some of these anti-racist fanatics, they piss me off. And I just want to, like in my fantasy, I would just want to take them by the collar and just start smashing them in the face. I know that's not right. They don't deserve to be, kicked in the groin and smashed in the face. But that would be my desire.
Yeah.
Because I feel that they're inflicting pain on a lot of people. And they also, like, I've been.
So you'd like to be there for a day?
I'd like to look. I mean, listen. I mean, my personal wish would be to do them physical harm, physical and emotional. I would want to hurt them in every possible way. Just about every. I mean, like in some way, I would like to hurt them, just because I think that their behavior causes a lot of pain, and particularly like those who are involved in censorship. And they've hurt a lot of people economically. I would like to see them hurt economically as well. I'm a kind of a tit for tat person.
Do you have names that you could name? Do you have specific individuals or companies that you're talking about?
There are a couple of characters online who are known to get people fired and like blacklist them. I don't even want to name any names because I don't want, but they're with organizations and groups. I'll give one name.
Organization. How about an organization?
What's that? Oh well, there's
personal.
There's One People's Project that is basically known to like, and they don't. It's not even. They don't. I mean, it's one thing if they would dock neo-Nazis and people that like who are actual racists, but their net is very wide. Same thing with the there's a guy on Twitter who goes by the name anti-fascist Gordon. Very much into
personally. How has this affected you personally?
It hasn't, but the fact that they're out there, and I have been reported online and some of my stuff has been shadow banned online, and they can always, the threat is always there that if you speak about things and you get too popular, they will come after you.
Who's coming after you? Have people come at people? Some people have come after you.
You know what? I have had only one like kind of threat from a person I debated once, and then I've had a few people threaten to do me physical harm.
Was that Mr. Solution?
No, Mr. Solution, no. But there were there was one guy who like he actually became, I think, either Antifa or an Antifa sympathizer, and I've had dealings with Antifa a few times in the past. Actually,
well, that guy Dean that I knew was pretty forceful in his
yes, yeah,
ideology.
So the name of the show is Prudince. So how is censorship and prudence? How do they? What's the difference? Why the name the show Prudince and then?
Well, I think one of the problems that I do is I want to like interact with these people, and my first thing is to really attack them harshly, and then they're going to do the same to me, and to a degree, it's like getting into a fight with a much bigger and stronger person who will defeat you. Like, because basically,
do you win any of your fights? Or do you think you've won any of your fights?
As far as turning people around and getting people to think differently, I don't know if I have had that many. I mean, because that would be considered like for me winning my fights. They haven't gone after me enough, and they don't. The thing about a lot of these groups is they're very underhanded and they're very sneaky. So they don't fight you up front. They'll shadow ban you, which is like they'll hide your posts, and it's just and it does anger me because it's so underhanded and just so dishonorable and to me un-American.
Do you think posting on YouTube is helping or hurting?
It's helping to a degree. I mean, look, I don't think they've necessarily shadow banned us, but they've lessened our content, and they've, and what YouTube has done has angered me because that's not the way they used to act.
Than you, or they've been doing it longer than you, that they're getting away with it?
Well, no, because they've actually also YouTube has restricted a lot of content. A lot of conservative content over the years. And if you're edgy and if you go against the civil rights industrial complex or you go against the anti-racist ideology, you're going to be shadow banned and banned. And if you talk against the CDC in any form of large medical organization that, like ours, you're also going to be banned as well. I mean,
could you do me a favor and tell me what shadow ban means to you?
Oh, shadow ban is meaning, okay, you'll post something on Twitter or on YouTube and only you will be able to see it. So basically no one else will see it but you.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there are shows whose narrative is non-threatening to whatever agenda is really, whatever's really going on, and you see these shows get insane numbers of subs, and their shows generally get promoted, and it often leaves me scratching my head. Why are these shows getting pushed? Why do some of these guys have millions of subs? There's no question in my mind that certain narratives get pushed and are made more visible by YouTube.
Can you give me an example?
I'll just go to any show that has lots and lots of subs, like extraordinary numbers, hundreds of thousands of subs, and watch the content, and you'll be left scratching your head wondering why. And it's happened to me tons of times, to the point where I know that there are channels that are in my opinion, I can't prove it, but it doesn't make sense. Some shows, some of these YouTubers out there get the subscribers they get outside of paying for them, and there's some that catch fire, but to get them into this upper echelon of subscribers and followers, whatever, it doesn't fit the content in my view. So I think we'll have to do a show dedicated to some of these at some point, or we'll just point it out, plain. But it happens.
When was the last time you guys were censored, or one of your shows were censored?
During the COVID thing, we've had a couple shows taken down.
Yeah, I mean,
did they tell you why? Do they give you the reason why? Do they give you?
No. It's all kind of like auto caught. There was a point when saying certain words were getting shows taken down, and so our show, we probably said some things on some shows that that got caught by the
censors,
whatever. Just not a human. It's probably a robot that
so
picked up.
Do they have censors like in the old days when movies had? Remember the censors in the old movies? They used to have the censor police.
Well, I mean, I was raised
stamp of approval. They would stamp your film,
and it was actually called. Yeah, I mean, it was called there was the Hayes Censorship Code, which was the Hayes office, and then there was the Legion of Decency.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've heard that a lot of film companies wanted their film condemned by the Legion of Decency because if they were, all of those Catholic schoolboys and girls would become much more popular, because anything somebody told you not to see, you went to see. And that was around since until 1974, I believe. The Legion of Decency. I mean,
didn't Howard Hughes fight with them a lot?
Howard Hughes fought both, I believe, the Hayes Office and the Legion of Decency.
Right. He because he was a filmmaker. He was a producer. He was a
Well, he did that during the. I mean, the most famous one is during the film The Outlaw.
The Outlaw.
And for a long time, Pepe, most of censorship was what was offensive to Christians. Now it's primarily, I mean, and it's just recently, it's those that are offensive, like to the medical community, supposedly giving out bad information. But for the longest time, it was those who offended the fanatical anti-racist. If you went against certain grains, you would be censored. And I mean, the anti-racist left. If you went against them,
people actually carried badges. I remember going to shows and seeing these censorship badges that you could buy from the old days. They actually,
wow,
yeah, there were badges. And,
I've never heard of that. That's crazy. Never heard of that.
Yeah.
That is the first. It was from the Legion of Decency.
I don't remember. I mean, this was quite a number of years ago. I used to frequent gun shows, and used to be able to buy badges. And I remember seeing these censorship badges, and I believe they would go. I believe they would go to the theaters, to see what they were watching or what the theaters were showing.
They were policing.
And, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. What film? And I don't want to go off in a different direction on you guys, so stop me if I am. But
Prudince, use our Prudince.
What film to you crossed the line of censor of kind of erased the line of censorship? At a certain point in the 70s, things started changing. There were films that changed.
Well, I'll be honest with you. If you want to get into the nitty
like
and
Easy Rider and The Graduate and certain things that
the 50. I heard that much of the censorship code started to erode in the 1950s, and then in the 1960s, and then they came up with the rating code in the late 1960s. Jack Valenti. I actually knew a woman, or I know a woman who dated him for a while. But
Sounds like fun, dating a censor.
I wanted to ask you guys to do a show on films that had changed certain films changed the way we look at films today. Like the Easy Riders, the Graduate. You can name half a dozen films that changed the landscape. That were like Midnight Cowboy, films that broke barriers.
Sure.
Well, I'll tell you something. For a long time, like I said, it was back in the day. It was films that offended American conservative sensibilities and primarily Christian. If you want to say Judeo-Christian values, but American Judeo-Christian values, and you really couldn't kind of go against that. And there were that went against it.
Yeah, name one. Name a film you think did that.
One of the first ones that comes to mind is Streetcar Named Desire. The Moon is Blue. When they said the word virgin. The Man with the Golden Arm that dealt with heroin addiction. That was, I think,
I remember that one. Yeah, Arnold Stang. Remember the actor Arnold Stang was in that movie. He played Frank Sinatra's go-to guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he played the heroin dealer. Yeah, and for a long time, that was basically, and the film industry. I don't know how prudently they acted, because it took them a while
Fitted the word prudently in there.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
It was
I did, and they wanted, you know what, and here's the deal: they wanted the film to be, the kind of the films back then were probably, made for prudes. They didn't want young minds corrupted, and the truth is, sometimes the further they stretch the boundaries, if you had a little,
this direction. Yeah.
the more you stretch the boundary, sometimes the more, because children by nature want to see what they're not allowed to see. It's kind of, I think it's a natural thing.
I mean, when you can't have something, you want it more. It's always been that way.
Yeah. I mean, look, when I was a kid, I took every piece of pornography and nasty stuff I could get my my hands on, and now it's like kind of readily available. Now my biggest issue for me is the thing that I can't have, that I think about all the time, is food, and sweet food at that. I'd love a good cheesecake, and I can afford it all.
Matter of fact, Ron Jeremy was just in the news. He wanted some tree was going to be cut down in his own neighborhood. He was trying to get it not cut down. I don't know if you saw that.
He probably lives near me.
It was in New York.
Oh,
I think it was in New York. Of all places.
interesting.
Who is this?
Yeah.
Ron Jeremy.
Ron Jeremy, his father planted a tree, and they were going to, some electric company was going to come by and cut it down. You know how the electric companies come by and they cut your trees down, for the sake of lines, electric lines. And he didn't want to cut it down.
You know what he told him? Use that weed whacker on my back, buddy. Not on.
Well, I like the way you fit the word prudence in there, because I wanted you to get to why you called the show Prudent and Prudence.
And you know what? If we could have probably the opposite of Prudence, on average, would be Ron Jeremy. I don't think he ever moved with Prudence.
He was not prudent. No, that's a good one.
But I guess he's, well. I mean, John Holmes is, I guess, considered the John Wayne of adult films, and then maybe Ron Jeremy is the Randolph Scott. But he certainly he's lived longer than.
Now, who would be the Mickey Rooney of porn?
Oh shoot! You know what? There was a dwarf.
TT boy.
TT boy. Yeah.
TT Boy is more like, he's more like the dangerous Rain Man of porn.
He's actually, TT Boy is actually the Nicolas Cage of porn.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah.
There was a short person. There was a tiny person in the adult film industry called, his name was Short Stud, and the only film that I remember him in is is Merry Xmas, and he played one of Santa's escaped elves.
Of course.
Yes. How could you forget? He called me last week.
Who, Jeremy?
So no, Felipe.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, remember Felipe from Mexico with the he was screwing all his teachers, having all those children. He had all those children stuck at the border.
Yeah, we need him back on.
Yeah, I know.
Now, I mean, and you and I are both kind of into the fight game, Pepe. A person that I think kind of preached prudence, and I could be completely wrong, is Customato.
Customato, yeah. Well, he was able to control one of the toughest fighters in the world, right? Or at one time considered the pound for pound, Mike Tyson, right?
I think is it Terry Atlas or Jerry Atlas? He talks about, and I think I don't know if I tweeted it to you, Joe,
Yeah,
but
I haven't seen it.
it's he's I mean, he is talking in 1985 or 1980 when 80, and Mike Tyson, I think, is about 15 years old at the time. And the Larry Holmes Muhammad Ali fight is on, and basically Mike Tyson said I could beat him in 3 rounds. I don't know if I could go like the full 15, but I could basically handle him. And Customato says, if when you get the chance, if you ever get the chance to meet him, you're going to knock him out with an overhand right, because the way in which he throws his jab is perfect for a right hand counter. And he talks about it, and then and you see the video of him smashing him in the face with that right and knocking him out.
Yes, he ended his career with that fight.
Well, I mean, he ended it for like as far as chance. But Larry Holmes did come back. He did fight the Butterbean, which was a very slow and boring fight, by the way.
Did he beat Butterbean?
Oh yeah, it was a decision. He was like, I think he was in his 50s at the time, 56, and he
really beat up Ali. He really beat up Ali bad.
Yeah. Well, Ali should have hung up his gloves. I mean, although Floyd Patterson was still fighting like when he was Ali's age, and he was, a better, just looked like a better condition because he was smaller. Seemed like a better condition.
Fought a lot of over the hill guys too. Jersey Joe Walcott, he was fighting Joe Louis at the end of their careers. A lot of fighters fought beyond their years.
Well, Archie Moore was fighting for years,
Archie Moore, and they weren't very prudent, were they, in fighting beyond their?
Well, I mean, but it goes to show you that and he lived a fairly long life, so it kind of goes to show you that these head injuries and stuff like that people claim. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much or if it shortened his life by that much, because I think he lived longer than Ali, although Ali lived a fairly long life, but Ali lived a very dissipated life for quite some many years. But Archie Moore
was like Pazienza. Was his name Vinny Pazzi? Or seen these guys talk?
Yeah, I mean, and George Chiavello is, and I don't know how long he stayed in the ring, but George Chiavello.
George Chiavello. That's why I told you to watch a documentary on what's his name?
Sonny Liston.
Sonny Liston, yeah, and they interviewed Chiavello. Chiavello, how do you say that?
Chiavello. I have, and I'm going to do, because I know people in the fight game as well. I have a whole philosophy on that. I mean, part of the thing is that Muhammad Ali made a much more money for the fight game than Sonny Liston did. He sold a hell of a lot of tickets and pay-per-view, and he was a very entertaining fighter. I don't know if he could be considered the greatest heavyweight, but he was, I think, the most entertaining of the heavyweight fighters, just by his personality.
In that documentary, they mainly implied that the Nation of Islam was really controlling that era.
Yeah, I mean, but I've also heard that there were a lot of police involved in the Nation of Islam. There were also a lot of mob people paying, mob informants into the Nation of Islam as well, because they also wanted to know what they were about.
but Ali was controlled by the Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are fanatical. These are fanatical people, but some of them I think were some of them were gangsters to begin with, and they were con men to begin with. I mean, the same thing with the Black Panther Party. I mean, a lot of those guys were basically, basically they were a street gang.
Yeah, and FBI infiltrated them and got themselves to turn against each other, and that was their downfall, the Black Panther Party.
Well, a lot of those guys were criminals, and to begin with.
Did it all end in California, kind of, the Black Panther Party?
A lot of it ended in California, but it also, I mean, a lot of these guys ended. I mean, I think they ended themselves as well. I mean, but Huey Newton. I mean, he wasn't Huey P. Newton? Wasn't he killed wasn't he killed? I mean, he was killed. He was a crack addict who was killed by a crack dealer in 1989. And the thing is, they make this person to be out to be a that's another thing that kind of pisses me off. They make a person like that out to be the Black Panther Party was this noble and righteous organization, when there is a lot of evidence that a lot of those guys were basically a street gang and a bunch of street thugs who, and they weren't prudent. I mean, they weren't very prudent. Like the movies make it.
Who was Angela Doran? Wasn't she one of them? Angela Doran? Was that a name? Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, I think.
Didn't have something to do with Patty Hearst too?
The Nation of Islam actually had something to do with Patty Hearst. They were involved in the Sudanese army, and they actually, I think, helped them out.
Well, whatever happened to Patty Hearst? Is she still alive?
She's still alive, and she was considered, I guess, not guilty. There's a whole, when I went to the Cold War Museum, they had a whole thing on the Patty Hearst. I don't know if they still do it or not, but a lot of these people were connected to very leftist politics, and some of them are still alive today. But they were like involved in brainwashing, and a lot of them, from my understanding, work within the colleges, and they've kind of brainwashed a large portion of the American populace. They've in my opinion, they brainwashed the media, the mainstream media, and now they're involved in large forms of censorship. And that is one of the things that kind of angers me. But thinking about it, it's kind of to be expected.
Wind blows.
Is that a book or a movie?
No, remember the Weatherman? They stole that from Bob Dylan. I don't need it's from a Bob Dylan song. So I don't need a Weatherman to tell them which way the wind blows. Yeah. That was during the 60s, turbulent 60s.
Yeah, well, now the wind blows in
SDS, the Students for a Democratic Society. SDS, the Weathermen. Yeah, I guess I'm showing my age, right?
Well, no, I read about them, and my father being into the film industry.
References are valued, anyways. Who cares? I'd rather get a perspective from somebody who's been around than some of I already know what's coming at us from the young. In the modern age, and it's not impressive. It certainly isn't as impressive as what has been part of the past.
Yeah, but they put down the past.
Who?
Okay, Boomer, right?
Boomer, from my perspective, is first of all, if people, for me, it's always been a gesture of somewhat of respect. Maybe they don't know how to encapsulated, or people like to stuff and grind and put people into a little box. And the easiest term for that generation is boomer. But hey, what the older generations have is
age comes wisdom.
What the older generation has cannot be bought today at no cost. There's not enough time, and there's just not. It's all very precious. It's a precious commodity. People my age and up are, because I came around. I was right there at the cusp of this kind of digital takeover, the technocracy, and once we're gone, the next generation after me never saw a day without a computer. And
that's right, or social media.
Does anyone remember the 10-point
word out?
Yeah, their whole lives are documented.
Does anyone here remember the 10? I have the 10-point program in front of me of the Black Panther Party.
And I remember when Mark Clark was murdered here in Chicago. Look up the man Mark Clark. I told you about the Al-Rukins to Jeff Fort. Remember I told you about Jeff Fort?
You know what? There was another man who was murdered in Chicago as well in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. No, I'm looking at Mark Clark, and this is a United States officer serving in World War I, World War II, and the Korean War.
Not that Mark Clark. Not that Mark Clark. No, not that. Black Mark Clark. That's a military guy, Mark Clark. But the Black Panthers, there was happened about 50 years ago. They were murdered by the FBI here in Chicago on Madison Street.
Because there was another Black Panther that was Mark. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he was killed in okay. Because I'm more familiar with Fred Hampton. Do you remember him?
Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, right? Fred Hampton
Fred Hampton was a little bit more famous. He was a little bit more outspoken than Mark Clark, and both those individuals were murdered, or I guess either killed or murdered by the Chicago police, however you put it. But here's a 10-point, the 10-point program. We want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our Black community. Number 2, we want full employment for our people. We want an end to the robbery by white men of our Black community. Later changed to we want an end to the robbery by the capitalists of our Black and oppressed communities. Number 4, we want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. Number 5, we want education for our people that exposes the true nature of the decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present day society. Number 6, we want all Black men exempt from military service. Number 7, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of Black people. Number 8,
that happened.
Yeah, we want freedom for all Black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. Number 9.
Actually, that's kind of happening now. They're releasing nonviolent.
Yeah, COVID-19 Black Panther Party.
Yeah.
We want all Black people when brought to trial to be tried in court by a jury of their peer group or people from their Black communities. As defined by the Constitution of the United States. And then number 10, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace.
Weren't they getting? Remember, we said they were going to get how many acres and a mule? They were going to get them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was something, I guess, Stevens, I forget who offered that up, 13 acres and a mule.
A mule. We should have given it to them.
Well, I mean, maybe we should have. I don't know. I mean, and there's talk of, giving reparations.
Look at all the trouble that would not happen. Gave them that mule.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? Well, like I said, anytime you have a large group of people in diversity, they're not all going to come to the same place, and there perhaps is bound to be jealousy and anger and then an angry response to that anger. It's kind of a never-ending circle because angry people do bad things, and they do vindictive things.
All people in prison all people that are in prison are political prisoners.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're all political prisoners, and most of them all haven't had a trial yet. Most of them are all young, and most of them are all black. And most of them are nonviolent.
I don't know about that. You know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that.
They're incarcerated for nonviolent crimes. They're not violent.
Is burglary? Let me ask you this: is burglary considered a nonviolent crime?
I don't know, but selling pot is a nonviolent crime, isn't it?
Yeah.
Selling drugs. But burglary, I would say it's a violent crime. I guess. Sure. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely is.
Theft I consider violent, but drug dealing and
petty theft.
But burglary I consider a violation of my rights. If my house is burglared, I consider myself to be violated, much more than if I bought some drugs.
Oh, you are violated whenever you're burglarized or if somebody steals from you, you've been violated. Absolutely.
The only difference in the eyes of the law is you've been violated with Vaseline.
Yeah.
I mean, JP, when you got your car stolen, did you feel violated?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But not violently.
When I got robbed in Mexico, when I got burglarized in Mexico, I felt very violated. I mean,
of course,
it was a horrible feeling.
Yeah, you go through
horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling.
Grieving loss, the whole bit. It's horrible.
Well, you're vulnerable. I mean, you know that you have no control. You're vulnerable to anything can happen. So yeah, it's a violation. It's probably all crimes are violations, I guess. Even selling drugs at some point. If your son ODs, I guess it's a violation. You've been violated.
Yeah.
How you look at it. That's not very prudent, though, is it?
Well, again, I mean, the truth is, by nature, you should feel violated because if this kind of thing happens enough, it's hard to recover. It takes your time and your energy. So you have been violated if you are
stand your ground. So stand your ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, you should be able to, but in this country, if you stand your ground, you could be, if you don't act prudently and you stand your ground and you stand the ground of your neighborhood, you stand the chance of things becoming even worse. Because look at those two gentlemen that were trying to protect their neighborhood from the gentleman. And look, I mean, the evidence is still kind of fresh, and I don't know if more evidence is going to be out. But I mean, there's a lot of different information on what's going on and how it's happening, and the people who are protesting are not being very prudent. They're not getting down to the facts.
Do you actually know anybody from the South? The atmosphere down there is still the way it hasn't changed much. The South.
You know what? My father was stationed in Greenville, Mississippi, and he didn't like it. I've been to Houston, Texas a few times. I didn't get that feeling when I was there.
I mean, Georgia, isn't Georgia the home of the Ku Klux Klan?
Like, you know what, though? I don't think things are the way they were.
Angela would know. Isn't she in the room? She would know that. I think that's
Angela lives in Arkansas, but she is from Oklahoma.
But she knows about the Ku Klux Klan, so I'm thinking, maybe she would know the answer to that. I think that's the home of the Ku Klux Klan in Georgia.
Well, I think Angela has talked to a few.
Although they have a black mayor, and Stacey Abrams, what I think JP pointed out to me, somebody pointed out to me, she lost by 60,000 votes, which is a lot of votes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she's a very popular woman, and she's Biden is pointing his finger at her as a running mate. So is this woman called not Lori Lightfoot. Can't think of her name. She's
Pocahontas.
She's lost her legs in the Middle East. Can't think of her name off the top of my head.
We're not talking about Ilan. The other chick.
Welcome to everybody out there listening. We got Debbie is here, Susie and Mandy and Mr. White, and all these people are here to check out the glorious Transparency and Merit, the best show right here on YouTube tonight.
I hope so.
Thank you for letting me come on, and I wanted to find out about Prudince.
We're not done yet. You aren't going anywhere. I'm kidding. You've already put in an hour.
I'm scared.
I did not expect you to stay on for an hour, but here we are, almost at an hour. And I'm enjoying listening. You two have simpatico. Something's going on here.
Manja.
I'm having a hard time because I had my tonsils taken out today. So
yeah, just eat more ice cream. More ice cream. Call Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Fagauci.
Dr. Fauci. We have to cure. Just grow your nose hairs very long.
It sounds like his voice just split up into 5 different voices.
If you grow your nose hair long and then you grow your ear hair.
By the way, Beppy,
yes.
Have you heard Brian's Dr. Fauci song?
Dr. About Beppy, though, but slap of your face. That's my favorite.
Dr. Fauci.
Yes, please sing it to me.
Find the cure. This is absurd.
Fauci.
He says to wear your mask wherever you go. I don't know. I forget how it goes. I had it.
We got to record it. We are going to film.
Maybe you could get Jimmy Lethal to sing.
We're getting together tomorrow, Beppy, and we're going to film something for you.
Okay.
I just remember someone. I just remember when someone, basically, what was it? Jimmy Lethal was mad at a guy because he thought the guy was in the chat room calling him Dago de Fago.
Dago de Fago.
Dago de Fago. I remember Dago de Fago.
I told him I was Italian, and this guy points and says that my name is Dago de Fago, and he put his name out there as Dago de Fago.
Call me Dago de Fago.
Meatspin has been quarantined, by the way, in goatseat.com. They've both been quarantined.
Oh, the whole industry is hurting right now.
Yes, it's hurting. Yes.
They spun round and round and round for years.
I have to apologize for, but we'll be back. We may have to go out of business.
How am I going to make? None of the actors that want to work. They're all afraid of this. This is a thing.
Restructure. Just file bankruptcy. Do it the American way. Restructure. You'll be back stronger than ever.
Yes, we're looking for stimulus checks.
What about the CARES package? I needed my loan.
We need a fix.
What country does Meet to Spin hoard all of their money? Where is it at?
Ron Jeremy is selling as a back hair. You want to buy it? 3 things for $20 a month.
That's
Ron
right.
Jeremy is selling his nose hairs. You want one of his mustaches?
We are hunted like an animal.
We are hunted like a.
Thanks for having me on the show, and I hope your audience enjoyed it.
I think that'll do it for our show. And
Becky, can you give us one, just a words of wisdom? You know, I'm a little upset that you feel attacked by people who, you know, they call you a boomer or whatever. You don't feel respected, but right here, you can always expect some level of respect, at least from me and probably Brian. Pretty respectful of our elders, you know. But I see it out there.
Just an hour ago, you called me an asshole.
You are a piece of shit. But then, you know, I was talking recently with a guy, and we were giving some information. We were talking to some young kids in their 20s who are podcasting, and he and I went on their show, and it really made me feel good to see young guys and girls who were really questioning our current reality and questioning everything, not just minor things. They had big questions, and they were looking to me and my friend, both in our late 40s, and you know, it felt good to me when they were asking us these questions as if we had some authority over it. And we did in these matters. We had some authority. We were able to tell them things that were blowing their little minds off. And
do you remember the questions? Do you remember any of the questions?
There's a lot of them, you know, just about the nature of things. And you know, I don't see the same things Brian sees, or we see the same things, but we don't see it the same way. And so anyways, long story short, I just wanted to see give us some words of wisdom, if you have any.
Well, what we did in the 60s, I mean, we tried to make a change, you know, and we became them. We became who we wanted to change, you know. But look at Occupy Wall Street. What did they accomplish? What did they accomplish?
Nothing.
What did the boomers from the 60s accomplish during the 1968 Democratic Convention? They ended a war. They helped end a war.
Yeah, well,
Very unpopular war. But there was another generation before that was even better, you know. And what's going on today happened in 1918. People should look at the 1918 pandemic that happened in 1918. It's very it parallels what's going on today in today's world. There's no difference. They've been quarantining people forever. Going back 2,000 years ago. If you got sick in somebody's city, what do you think they did with you? They took you and they brought you out of the city and set you out on the road somewhere. Quarantining is the oldest form of what's the word I'm looking for? Of
medicine?
Of getting rid of the pandemic or an epidemic is quarantining, you know. And yeah, you know, I mean, I don't have any words of wisdom. It's
you know what though,
short of a lot of things today. So let's say a prayer. Rub-a-dub, thanks for the grub.
Yeah, real quick, and if you want to leave, you can. But just before you go, I just want to mention that, you know, the generation before
wars is. I'm an older man, and I've been in many wars. I was up San Juan Hill, if you remember.
Yeah. But talking about the difference between the boomers and the generation before, and you look at the generation before in their lives beforehand, and what they had to go through, not only like military service or war, but the poverty and stuff that they had to endure, far worse.
Oh yeah.
And you know, like I looked at the light. If you just look up
victory guard today, like they did in the 40s, you know, and during World War II, you know, when everybody got together and stuck together and you know helped get through their bad times, you know, instead of being divided. I don't think they were divided back then, but I don't know. But see, that what happened in the 1918 pandemic is very similar. I mean, that happened. It ended in 1920, and this is 2020, right? Almost 100 years ago, this all happened. And there's a lot of things. You ask the question. You can ask the question: why did they forget what happened in 1980? You would think they would never have forgotten, because just as many people were dying back then, and just as many shortages were going on. But they ran into the Roaring '20s, and then ended up into the Great Depression, and from there, Prohibition, and then another war. I mean, so you can understand why they forgot what happened back in 1918. But will they forget what happened in 2020?
People didn't want to remember the Depression either, man. I mean, people were coming. People were eating out of garbage cans, and some people.
Yeah.
And sometimes, a lot of times, the soup kitchens ran out of soup. Where you had to look for garbage in the trash cans, and if you saw
jumped out of the window,
yeah.
All kidding aside, this what happened in 1918. You should really read about what happened in 1918. It's almost parallels what's going on today.
Of course it does. Wayne Whiteside, his parents were immigrants. Where did they come here from, Wayne? Curious. But yeah, that's true, man. It's forgetting our history is the worst thing, right? You're condemned to repeat it, as the saying goes.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
The truth is, it seems like both sides are not acting very good.
You asked me the other day, Joe, about wearing masks. We were talking about wearing masks and things.
Sure.
And I said to you, do what makes you feel comfortable. You don't have. I'm for civil disobedience, as long as you do it in a nonviolent fashion. We're supposed to be 3%ers, right? We're supposed to practice civil disobedience. That's what this country's about. You don't have to wear that mask, but should you? I don't know. I'm not the mask police, but
I've carved out a routine that I can get by if I want to, by going to places that are not enforcing the mask rule, and that's just me. But I find it all incredibly. I find an incredible problem with the whole mask thing, and
we were talking about our wives the other night,
right? And it was interesting that both of us kind of had a mental bomb go off for different reasons, for polar reasons, really.
Similar reason, very similar, because it was virus. It was about the virus.
It was virus, but it was we were on different sides of the angle, but basically we were united in the sense that we just don't want to be in a home that's divided, and that was the critical point. And
yeah, absolutely.
And we were fighting against living in a situation where we felt divided.
I heard Brian the other night say that he wears masks when he goes out. So how do you criticize that? If he feels comfortable doing that, let him do it.
Well, I'll tell you something, guys. I only wear a mask when I go into the store, and I only do it because it's the law. It's kind of the law, and it's kind of what the stores expect.
It's not the law.
It's the policy of the store. No shirt, no shoes, no mask.
It goes against. It's not a constitutional. It's not something that can be held up by the Constitution. Get out of here.
Right.
Well.
Right. I'm not keeping that.
And to me, it's not that big of an inconvenience. But and the fact of the matter is, one of the things I don't see in a lot of these, a lot of these social unrest things, and I don't see a lot of prudence behavior.
That level of compliance scares me. It just does.
If I lived in Michigan, would I sling my AR-15 over my shoulder and go to the state capitol? I don't think so.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's an act of anger, and I do feel that on average,
it's brandishing, it's intimidation, and I don't think that's right.
Angry people in the end can't be trusted, or should not be trusted like that.
It's not prudent, Brian.
No, it's not. It's not prudent.
And Debbie is flying tomorrow. Fly safely. I guess I didn't even know there was commercial flying right now.
You know what? And there was a promise of steak, and
I want to talk to Debbie should to tell Debbie to fly safe. Fly safe, Debbie.
Yeah, this is not the law, right? These are scare tactics by our politicians, and I'm
Our
saying
politicians are the worst. They don't.
there's
give a
only
rat's ass
one
about
reason.
us.
There's only one reason to wear a mask, and that is to participate in a masquerade or a Halloween party. That's the only time you should be wearing a mask.
All right, I'm going to give you words of wisdom.
Sure.
As Tonto said to the Lone Ranger, never take off the mask, Kimosabe.
There you go. There you go.
And he never did, right?
Mm.
Because he had to fight truth, justice, and the American way, right? Till there was no criminal element left. And then he morphed into the Green Hornet. Right?
Yeah.
That was his relative, right?
I guess. And you know what? Brian would know better than me. That's, I should be. The Three Musketeers were Brian's favorite. I'm partial to Milky Way.
One for all and all for Milky Way.
Well, I'm not. Actually, Three Musketeers is my least favorite. My least favorite candy bar. I'll have to be honest with you on that.
But it goes to show you. It goes to show you, Joe, that we all have something in common. Like
Yes.
our we were talking about what transpired between our wives,
Right.
and how we all have something
At
in
the
common.
same time too. See, I think the same day it hit. We both had our blowout.
Yeah, it could have caused me a divorce.
I was in the same boat, man. It was that bad. It was that
Yeah.
bad. It was brutal. And where do we go from here? Is it going to get better, or is it going to continue to suffocate and try to divide? I'm not buying in. I'm not budging an inch. But like you said, a peaceful house is critical.
Also,
Harmony at
By the way,
home.
and Brian would know about this. It's what Paul Newman called "Never Give an Inch." It's Henry Fonda.
That's right.
Do you remember that movie, Never Give an Inch?
I've seen it.
have you seen it, Joe?
Yeah, I saw part. My dad told me he was watching it one day, and I think it was on AMC or it was on cable somewhere.
It was about a union. They were loggers, and they were.
Yeah, I remember that. And he lied, and Henry Fonda loses his arm. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Was it called Never Give an Inch?
Never Give an Inch. It had two titles to that movie. One of the few movies that had two titles.
Oh, there's lots of movies with two titles. Lots of movies.
Is there?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
There are.
But I'll tell you, for me, Joe, the reason I wear a mask, and the reason I wear a mask in the stores.
Hear your bullshit. Let's hear this bullshit bloviation. Go ahead.
One word. Prudence. This is not the hill. Here's the deal. This is not. I don't feel comfortable wearing it. I don't like wearing it. But this is not. Here's the thing. This is not the hill.
Why are you wearing it? Why are you wearing it?
Than sorry.
Why are you wearing it? Why?
Compliant. He likes to comply.
You're
He wants to comply.
compliant. You're compliant on an insanely bad level.
He feels comfortable. Let him feel comfortable.
All right. You're right.
Again. That's not the hill. I pick my battles. I pick my fights. And like in boxing, you learn.
This is the biggest fight.
It was a movie called The Hill.
Yeah. Well, what you learn, what I learned in self-defense, and sometimes I don't always follow it, but if there are two emotions that you can go with that can hurt you, fear and anger, and either one of those,
wearing the mask is based on fear. There's no other reason to wear the mask. There is no law. It can't be enforced. The only thing a store could do is say, we won't serve you.
And I want to be served. And I go to that. I go to my 7-Eleven quite a bit, and I want to be served. And I desire being served and complying with it, rather than standing my ground and not. And at the end of the day, it does not. What do I gain?
I get angry when I see somebody not complying with the policy of the store.
Yeah.
I wanted to shoot a guy the other day.
Yeah, I'd rather avoid
did.
that. I'd rather avoid confrontations, so I avoid those situations.
I got mad at a guy touching all the tomatoes. It's like, just fucking take one. It's just like, just fucking take it. You know, you don't have to. And the same with the bags of tortillas. He kept. They're all the same. Just fucking take one and go. Get the fuck out of there and go. You know.
Arizona doesn't have high numbers, Angela. What is she talking about? I've never seen anybody talk so much nonsense. Shut up.
But I want to leave your listeners with a secret question that I have. Name the only baseball player that was traded for himself. Maybe Joe Seeker would know that. Oh, by the way, that one baseball player died. Remember that I told you about that guy that threw the fastest pitch ever? I forget the guy's name. Delkowski. Remember Delkowski?
Yeah. No, he's been dead a while, I think.
No, he just died about a month ago.
Eddie Haskell's dead. He's been dead for how many days now? Eddie Haskell.
Eddie Haskell's dead.
Eddie Haskell's dead. But there was a baseball player back in the 50s. He was traded for himself. Name that player.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll give a book out.
Book.
I give book to people that call in with
One
an answer.
book.
I give my book signed by Beppe Grillo.
Traded for him. I don't remember. I don't remember if I've ever heard this.
Because Bepe's not from LA, so let's see if he can answer this. Who did Steve Garvey get traded to?
Cubs, didn't he?
Padres?
Padres. He's got prostate cancer, by the way.
Yeah, he does.
Mm-hmm.
He was a longtime Padre after a Dodger.
I had my tonsils out today.
Hey, by the way, he's the reason why I stopped being a baseball. Because once he got sold to the Padres, I stopped being a Dodger fan and a baseball. It bothered me a lot when he got traded.
The only time I was in California, I went to a Padre game when Ray Kroc owned the team. And I sat way, way up in the nosebleed. And there was a hawk flying around. I saw the St. Louis Cardinals play. And it was during the Easter break. I was in San Diego. The only time I've ever been to California.
Huh.
And I got there in a deceptive way. I had a one-way ticket, and I had to drive all the way back to Chicago from San Diego. I was stuck there for 2 weeks. And I went for a walk, and I didn't realize the place was full of hills, and you can't really go for a walk in San Diego.
All right, guys. Are we done here?
We're done.
That's not where I stole a girl's bicycle to take a ride.
Yes.
Well,
By the way,
that happened, I think, right?
Angela, you're so full of hot air. I can barely stand the thought of hearing what you have to say. But do you have anything to say before we go off?
Hello, Angie.
Well, thanks for having me on tonight, guys. I appreciate it. It's been a long time since
Long time. Thank you
Debbie
for
says I look good.
coming in.
Waiting
and
for that
kicking
thing.
it
I'm
out.
flying out to Dallas, Debbie.
Did I do okay? I mean, was it okay that I didn't disgrace you guys? Or
Did a hell of a job, man.
Damn good. Debbie, where are you flying? I didn't get that. Where's she going? Where the hell is she flying? And how much did the flight cost? Must be dirt cheap to fly right now.
I want to mention that Debbie's still, and this is the fourth time. Debbie, steak dinners is on you when I go out to Dallas.
did you bring anybody's steak while she's there?
I think it was code for she's just going to get high.
Is she going to see Curtis in Arizona? Isn't Curtis in Arizona? Kick his ass while she's there?
There might be a love connection.
Oh, is that where she's going? Arizona? I missed that. Okay. Maybe to see.
I think I heard it was Arizona. So
okay. All right, everybody. Good night. Thank you all for listening. Thanks, Beppe. And that's it.
good night.
End this sucker.